everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name's Alexa Ray and welcome to another video. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We are going to be doing my February reading wrap-up. February was another baby reading month. I read 5 books total. February was a very interesting reading month for me because I actually didn't read any 5-star books, which is very crazy if you know me. I give 5-star ratings out like crazy, literally like Oprah, basically. So the fact that I didn't have a 5-star book this month was very surprising. I don't know where I went wrong with it. I think it's because for the month of February, I actually had a theme and I was reading only pink books for the month of February. This was a fun little challenge I did because it helped knock some books off my bookshelf that I was never picking up. Setting that little challenge for myself in February helped push me and motivate me to pick those books up finally. I just didn't find any books that I was obsessed with this month. 5-star and 4-star reads for me are books that are kind of always in the back of my mind. Like I'll randomly think about a quote or a character or a scene randomly throughout my day. That just didn't happen this month. That was a little sad for me. But we did read some pretty interesting books this month. I'm gonna start off with the first book I read, which was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This I can't even, okay? Ali Hazelwood has been one of my favorite authors since early last year when I read The Love Hypothesis by her. That is one of my 5-star reads, a book that I think about all the time, characters I think about all the time. I was just absolutely obsessed with it when I read it. She came out with Love on the Brain, I believe last year in October. I was very excited to get my hands on it, and I had known back in the fall time that I wanted to do a February video revolving around pink books. So I decided to save this book for the month of February because the cover is absolutely gorgeous. I'm obsessed with it. I was immediately in love with these characters and I was just so excited. I think Ali Hazelwood writes women in STEM so well, and I was just really excited to get into this one. Olive and Adam were some of my favorite book characters ever. I had very high hopes for this. I had not seen a lot of people read this book yet. I had not seen any reviews on it, and that's just because I didn't want to risk spoiling anything for myself, and I really wanted to just go into it being surprised and excited. This was the very first book I picked up and read in February, and it ended up being a 2-star read for me, which is very low if you know me. Like I said, I give out 5 and 4-star ratings like crazy, okay? This was one of the first books that I have read in a very long time that I was just like, it's not doing it for me. This is an enemies to lovers story between Levi and Bee. They are both scientists and they're working on a project together at NASA. I thought this was going to be a lot better than it actually was. Bee and Levi have always been enemies since college. A few years pass by and Bee ends up getting a project at NASA, but she finds out that she's co-leading with Levi Ward, and she quickly recognizes the name and is like, oh, this is going to be horrible because I have to now co-lead this project with my nemesis. So right off the bat, I was super excited because I'm like, oh, this is going to be such a fun and cool enemies to lovers. It's going to take place at NASA and it's going to have a lot of science in it. I have a lot of beef with this book and these characters. I think Levi was an okay character. He was a little bland for me. At times he reminded me of Adam Carlson, which I did like about him, but for the most part, he was just very bland to me. Bee, you know, she's supposed to be badass, independent scientist who is super smart and brilliant, and I have to say the entire story, I just found her to be extremely dumb, and I thought that was weird because she's a scientist working at NASA. That was very discouraging right off the bat. I found her to just be very immature and make really awkward, weird comments. I don't know, it just kind of like rubbed me the wrong way sometimes. Their whole dynamic of being enemies was okay. I feel like it was also kind of boring. Like usually there's a little bit more to the story. Why do they hate each other so much? There's usually more bickering, stuff like that, and I just feel like this book was really lacking in that department. I found towards the end of it that I was more into the side characters' lives than the main characters' lives. Right away I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. I should be very invested in the main characters' lives, not so much the side characters' lives. That was a little flag for me, and I was like, I'm not really really enjoying this. The Love Hypothesis was a very fast-paced read for me as well. Like, I could not put that book down. This was the complete opposite. It was very slow-paced, getting distracted easily, drifting off easily. I just feel like the execution in this story was not good enough for me to stay interested in it. And one thing that kind of was annoying. I feel bad because I feel like a lot of people enjoyed this book, and one of the reasons they enjoyed this book is one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy this book, and that's Marie Curie. B is obsessed with Marie Curie, who was a scientist a very long time ago. I feel like that's just her entire personality. She's just talking about Marie Curie the entire time, and I feel like the book was more about Marie Curie than B and Levi and this project at NASA. So that was also kind of annoying. I was very, very bored throughout many chapters when it was all about Marie Curie. And overall, I just found this book really predictable. I was already not enjoying this book. The fact that I kind of knew what was going to happen next also just kind of bored me a bit. Right after Love on the Brain, I picked up The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. Lynn Painter is also the author of Better Than the Movies, which was a very, very popular book last year. I believe The Do-Over came out early this year, and I also have not seen a lot of people talk about this book yet. I think a lot of people did pick it up for the month of February because the entire story actually takes place on Valentine's Day. The Do-Over tells a story of Emily and Nick. Emily is essentially reliving Valentine's Day over and over again. She is stuck in some crazy time loop nightmare. She winds up running into her boyfriend Josh cheating on her multiple times on Valentine's Day, as well as just another series of unfortunate events following. Valentine's Day is just not like the best day for Emily. It's even worse because she's stuck reliving it over and over again. So we kind of watch as Emily navigates repeating this day, and we slowly get to see her change up the days, kind of try new things out, see if she can break this time loop. And at the center of it all is Nick Stark, who is a boy that goes to Emily's school. He seems to be the center of all these do-overs. No matter what Emily changes, how she changes up her days, Nick just is always there. She's always running into Nick, and she can't quite figure out why. So this whole story, we are watching Emily navigate these do-overs. We're watching her navigate her entire life that is just turning into chaos all at once. And we're watching her kind of take a stand for herself for once and kind of just doing what she wants instead of what everyone else wants her to do. So this was a very cutie little YA. I think it's perfect for the month of February, perfect for Valentine's Day. I ended up giving this book a 3-star rating because it was a super cutie little romance. It wasn't hitting the spot for me for some reason. I think because it was a time loop story, it was harder to connect to the characters because we're just kind of seeing them relive the same day over and over again, where we usually get to watch characters throughout a time period kind of evolve and develop. I think that was a hard thing to navigate reading this. I thought Nick Stark was absolutely adorable. I think this was an adorable little high school romance. I think if I read this back in high school or middle school, this would have been easily a 5-star read for me, but because I am past that time in my life and I have read a lot of books now, I think my maturity level when it comes to reading is just a little bit too high for this book, and it was just kind of underwhelming. But nonetheless, it was absolutely adorable. It's perfect for Valentine's Day. If you're looking for a clean, closed-door romance, this is absolutely perfect for you. I'm also obsessed with the covers of her books. I think they're so cute. Something else I absolutely loved about this book was actually the little opening page, and she says, "For the lonely, the daydreamers, the ones who find their friends between the pages of books. You matter and your happy ending will come. Sometimes the wait is just longer in real life than in fiction." I have to say that is one of my favorite author's notes I have ever read. It just like gave me chills reading. I love that so much. And I also love the little drawings in it. I think it was absolutely adorable. There was a playlist for this book I also was obsessed with. There's a lot of songs on here by Taylor Swift and a lot of songs by Phineas, like Let's Fall in Love for the Night, that I absolutely love. They're some of my favorite songs. Next up, I picked Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman, another adorable pink cover book. Absolutely obsessed with this. I picked this up sometime last year, and I don't believe I saw a lot of people read this either. Like, I know a lot of people read this book, but I don't think I ever read reviews on it or anything like that. If I did, I think they were kind of like in the middle. People either really liked it or they didn't like it. Going into this, I was totally blind. It tells the story of Hani and Gabe. Hani is a writer, news reporter, something along those lines, and Gabe is a big-time Hollywood actor. He is taking on the role of James Bond, and there's a lot of controversy behind it because he's American, and as most of us know, James Bond is British, so there was a lot of controversy behind him taking on that role. Hani covers a story about him and actually interviews Gabe. Their interview turns into a whole weekend affair. Hani ends up accompanying Gabe to a movie premiere, I think like an award show, after parties, like the whole shebang. She gets an insight into what Hollywood life is like for an actor, and it turns into a crazy weekend, and people are obsessed with it. People want the tea on what happened that entire weekend. They want to know what happened between Hani and Gabe. If something happened between the two of them. What did Hani learn about Hollywood lifestyle and what these actors and actresses do behind the scenes? 10 years later, Hani and Gabe reunite for the first time since their interview to recreate their magical, fun weekend, which seemed really cool and sounded really fun in my mind. But then when they actually reunited, it seems like they're a little tense. There's a little tension between the two of them. It seems like they have some unfinished business from all those years ago that they have to tackle and talk about. The story goes between then and now. We watch Hani and Gabe go through their first interview together, and then we jump into the present time when Hani and Gabe reunite for the first time. It's very interesting. I believe I also rated this book 3 stars because I enjoyed the story. I had never read anything like this before. I thought it was really cool watching Hani interview this big time movie star and just kind of watching their relationship evolve throughout time. This was a cute read. I would definitely recommend it. I have to say, in this book though, I found myself very interested in the side characters once again. A side character in the story is Ali. He's another big time movie star, one of Gabe's friends. I just found myself like falling in love with Ali the entire story instead of Gabe and Hani. But nonetheless, it was a super cute and fun read. Definitely enjoyed it. It's very different. Following that book, I picked up Last Chance Books by Kelsey Rodkey. It says book lovers can be haters too. This is a book I solely picked up because of the cover, because look how cute this cover is. I was so obsessed. You can tell these two characters do not like each other. They're already bickering right on the cover. I was like, okay, this is gonna be the best romance. It's an enemies to lovers. I'm gonna love it. They're standing on these cutie little stacks of books. Everything about it just gave me happy vibes, so I immediately picked it up. I had no idea what the story was about. I've never seen anyone read it. I've never seen reviews about it. I have literally never seen this book anywhere. So I got really excited thinking that this would be a new fun little romance that maybe I could put people onto because I haven't seen a lot about it. I was very disappointed by this book because the cover is so cute. It wasn't it. I have to say again, if I was like in middle school, high school, maybe I would have really liked this book. Last Chance Books tells the story of Madeline Moore. She works at her family-owned bookstore, Books and More, and it's just this cutie little indie bookstore. I have to say the setting in this book is a very cozy bookstore vibe, so I absolutely love the setting of it because that's just like my comfort setting, but the rest of it just wasn't it. So she works at her family bookstore and a new bookstore opens across the street called Prologue. Things just seem to go downhill for Books and More. It seems like they're losing customers, they're losing money. It seems that Books and More may have to go out of business if they can't make enough money, and Madeline immediately blames Prologue across the street, and I just found it to be a little bit dramatic in my opinion. She was just blaming this bookstore across the street for taking all their money and customers. So Madeline hates the bookstore across the street, finds out that the boy she may have liked works at Prologue, and it kind of starts this little enemies to lovers. They start pranking each other. Madeline essentially spends her entire summer trying to save Books and More. It is a crazy story. Some crazy stuff happens in here that I'm just like, does that really have to be in here? I feel like it didn't really need to be in here, but I have to say up until like the last few chapters, the book was actually like not bad. It probably would have been a 3-star read. The ending was just so disappointing to me. I had to give it 2 stars. Like I just was not having it with the ending of this book. I feel like I just wasted my entire day reading this book for it to end like that. Again, it was another book that I thought the idea, the concept of it was absolutely adorable, but the execution just wasn't it for me. I feel like it just could have been done better. And Madeline was just very immature for my type of reading style, I guess you could say. I don't know, just was kind of weird to me. And Jasper's character was very bland. I was just kind of disappointed with that. And then the very last book we read in the month of February is a book that has been so highly requested, so highly recommended on my channel. It's probably like the biggest and most important book I have read on my channel because it's a book that has been recommended since day one of my booktube, and so many of you have requested it. So the last book I picked up in the month of February was Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This series, this book is so popular. I'm sure so many of you have read it, so I decided to pick up book one in the month of February. I even went through and actually tabbed and annotated it, and I have to say some of my favorite book quotes came out of this book, and I'm really happy I finally read it. I put it off for such a long time because I find that when books are super hyped up, I don't really like them, and I'm either very disappointed by the end of them or very underwhelmed. So I'm always very nervous going into very hyped up books, but I'm happy we finally picked this up. This ended up being a 3-star read for me. I told you guys, no 4 or 5-star reads this month. It was very weird for me. Addicted to You ended up being a 3-star read for me. It tells the story of two best friends, Lily and Lo. This is a fake dating trope, and it mostly revolves around their addictions. Lily is addicted to sex and Lo is an alcoholic. So the whole story revolves around their addictions and their love for one another, and how them being together and their love for one another is almost enabling their addictions because they'll do anything for each other. This is probably the biggest roller coaster of emotions this month for me because it does tackle addiction, and I've never read a book that revolves around something like that, so it was very interesting. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the storyline. I enjoyed the characters. We get a really cool insight into a lot of side characters that we see later in the book series, in the Calloway series, so I cannot wait to get to the Calloway sister series because I am obsessed with Connor. I'm obsessed with Wright. It was definitely another story where I was more interested in the side characters, but knowing that there's like books about them makes me super excited and hyped up to keep going in this. I ended up giving this a 3-star rating just because I understood the whole point of the book, and it's a very sensitive, touchy type of book because we're talking about addictions. So it's very hard, it's very intense, it's very real. I think the authors do an amazing job at showing readers what it's like to really have an addiction. But with that being said, there were just points in the story where I was getting so frustrated with Lily and Lo. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, please don't do that. You guys are being so selfish. Like, you're affecting everyone around you. What are you doing? But that's the whole point of this story, is to give us an insight into what it's like for people who have addictions like that. Although it was annoying and I got very irritated, I understood what was going on and what the authors were trying to do. This was a good one though. I would definitely recommend it, but definitely check for trigger warning because there is like some graphic stuff in there. There's like a little bit of spice in there, and I mean, it does revolve around addiction, so. But that is all the books I read in the month of February. This is your little monthly reminder to not compare yourself to anyone on the internet. Compare yourself to friends, family members who may be reading a ton more books than you. Comparison is our worst enemy, of course. It's okay if you only read one book a month, if you don't read a book a month. It's whatever fits your lifestyle and your comfort level, and ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever makes you happy. I have to say, although I read 5 books this month, I am a little bit disappointed just because we didn't have any 4 or 5-star reads. That is very unlike me. I am very happy because I did achieve my February TBR goal, which is super exciting. That is another 2023 goal of mine, to make more realistic TBRs and actually complete them every month. I think the only book I didn't get to was Magnolia Parks, and that's just because it's a little bit longer of a book and I wanted to save it for a reading vlog, and I didn't want to rush myself because I think that's another one I would really like to annotate. So that book is probably going to roll over into my March TBR. Other than that, we completed my February TBR, which is super exciting. I'm so proud of myself. I'm proud of us. Here's to another amazing month of reading. Make sure to comment down below if you saw any books in today's video that you have read already, what you think about them, what your ratings were on them, as well as letting me know what your favorite books of February were. If you made it this far in the video, comment the little pink sparkly emoji because it's like my favorite favorite emoji for the month of February. I just feel like it's the perfect one. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. My one hope for every video is that you're able to take away at least one book rec that you maybe want to put on your TBR and also hopefully enjoy. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video.